Have you ever wanted to go from a question like, show me all my MRI studies for patients over 65, to actually viewing those scans in your browser in seconds with no code, no complex setup, and no vendor lock-in? That's exactly what this solution does today. We'll talk about here on Pandalytics. Introducing the Fabric DICOM Cohorting Toolkit, an end-to-end open-source solution for patient cohorting and medical imaging, built entirely on Microsoft Fabric Healthcare Data Solutions and Microsoft Azure. Healthcare organizations manage petabytes of imaging data across 9+ modalities and dual standards like FHIR and OMOP. Clinicians need to quickly identify patient cohorts and access imaging studies without provisioning complex infrastructure. With the Cohorting Data Agent, clinicians ask questions in plain English. The agent automatically translates natural language queries into SQL across FHIR Silver and OMOP Gold lakehouses. No coding required. The interactive Power BI dashboard provides demographic slicers, KPI cards, modality charts, and patient tables. With nearly 300 patients, 339 studies, and over 7,700 DICOM files at your fingertips in the sample data alone. The zero-dependency DICOM viewer uses OHIF and a lightweight proxy to fetch images just in time from Microsoft Fabric's OneLake. Click a link in the Power BI dashboard, and the medical image renders instantly in your browser. The architecture is fully open source, from the data agent converting language to SQL, through Fabric's medallion lakehouses, to Power BI dashboards and the OHIF viewer. Every component can be made production-ready and extensible. Now that we've gone over the solution, let's take a look and see how we can deploy in minutes and bring the power of natural language cohorting to your organization. Let's dive in. All right, let's take a look starting with the architecture. As you notice, we are depending a lot on work that's already been done, especially when it comes to Microsoft Fabric. So we are anticipating a Microsoft Fabric HDS workspace already deployed with information in there already loaded from your DICOM services. So what we are expecting is that it's been ingested and it's been flattened to silver and transposed into gold. If you're unaware of how to do this, I'll drop a link in the comments talking about how to get to this spot where we're starting. Now what we're creating new, as shown here in this architecture, is this cohorting data agent. And it's looking at these two sources as well as a semantic model to answer questions. The other portion that we're deploying, which is going to be net new, no requirements for this other than having an Azure subscription, are here. A static web app looking at a container app that is pulling a container from a container registry, logging it to log analytics. And what this is doing is this viewer is pointing right back over to Fabric, again, leveraging what you've already done in the Healthcare Data Solutions workspace, to pull the images that have been loaded into the workspace directly from Fabric without needing to pull it into the app to read it. It will read it straight from on disk. So how do we get started? So after we've kind of looked at this architecture and understand how it works, let's look at the code. So the code's here, and this link will also be in the comments section of this video, is my GitHub repo. And it kind of goes over the introduction that you just saw, as well as what it does. Each component is called out directly, as well as the architecture you just saw. And individually, inside those large boxes you saw on the diagram, you can see which tables are being referred to, and either the data agent or the DICOM files for the viewer sitting on disk. I tell you exactly what you need to have, what you need to install and ready to go so that all this works, and give you a few screenshots about how it should work together. We'll go through this in just a moment. All right, now that you have information about how to get started and how to use this, let's go into Fabric and see what it looks like with it all deployed. So I'm going to go to Fabric myself here. I'm going to go to a different workspace, switch my experience over to the Fabric experience. I'll go back to that workspace again. And take a look at what this, again, is the prereq, is to make sure this DICOM modality has been set up, has run through the processes of getting data into the Silver Lakehouse and flattened into OMOP Gold. All right. Now that that's there, we go through and take a look at first the dashboard. So I've broken mine up into some handy dandy little folders here. You can feel free to use whatever you like, but we're looking at dashboards specifically. And this dashboard, along with the semantic model, comes out of the GitHub repo that I just showed you before. So after it's deployed and published, it will look like this. And again, this is pulling from the Healthcare Data Solutions FHIR Silver tables, as well as the Healthcare Data Solutions Gold OMOP tables. And you see we have a bunch of fake names here loaded from the synthetic data that you get when you deploy Healthcare Data Solutions. And I see that there are some DICOM studies here with each patient and the total number of files here. There's a large skew to MRIs, which is fine, a few CTs, and a few external camera photography DICOM modalities, as well as a few mammographies. So the MRI, since it has the most, let's just take a few here, and let's pick Angelita Bausch here. I would say, okay, I want to look at this particular person because her demographics are what I want to investigate here. And I right-click on her and say drill through to patient images. And if you notice here, it takes me to the second page, and it's isolated down to just Angelita Bausch's information. So I can just view the entire study here or individual instances. So I'm going to go to the entire study. If you notice, it pops out a new tab here, and this tab is rendering the data file that's sitting over in Fabric directly inside my browser, right? So let me hide this, give it a few more seconds to load, and I have a full-fledged viewer, a DICOM viewer, to take a look at this MRI. Wonderful, right? Scrolling up and down with my mouse wheel to see the different slices here as well. And just to show you that this is not any magic here, let's go to a different modality. And if you notice here, when I click on CTs, my sample data doesn't have a name or anything, but I can pretend like there's a name there and drill through and take a look at one of these CTs. So it's going to do the same thing. So reach out to Fabric, grab that image, and render it here in my browser. Okay, that took about 10 seconds or so to load, but this is the first image I get. This is the overall CT, and I could actually double click on any of these, and just like the MRI, use my mouse wheel to scroll up and down through the slices here and see all of the different portions here of the chest CT. Starting at the brain, going all the way down. Look at all that. That's wonderful. Okay, so now let's take a look at the data agent that will answer questions based on natural language on these same images. Okay, last but not least, we are going to look at the imaging cohorting agent here inside of Fabric. It's inside my workspace I showed you earlier here. And this is deployed as part of the GitHub repo as well. So you'll see that all of the tables that you need to do the queries are checked off and checked for you. Agent instructions are already set, as well as example queries, which are a few shot instructions, are also already set inside the agent. So all you really need to do is just ask the agent whatever you'd like. So I'm going to ask it a typical cohorting question where I'm asking the count of patients by race and ethnicity who have imaging studies broken down by modality. Now, if you remember from our dashboard, most of the modality is MRI. So what we can do is find out a little bit more about what's inside that cohort. So let's give the AI a few seconds here to tell us. And looks like we have ethnicity codes and race codes and things like that. But that doesn't mean a lot to me. So let me ask this question. And it actually says, hey, you may not find that very useful. Would you like this to be mapped to the descriptive names or natural language names? I'll just say, yeah, let's do that. And also, it's not telling me a lot about the patients themselves. So what we can do after this comes back and it breaks down the ethnicity and race codes that come from the OMOP database, this gold database here, in this nice little chart, is say, hey, do I need, let's find out about this cohort here. What about those that are under 40 years old and are male? So I'm going to intentionally keep that misspelling there so you can see the AI is not going to have a problem with that. And it's going to look inside a couple of concepts, finding age, and go through here and says, oh, well, I don't have any folks under the age of 40. Okay, what are the age in this cohort? And I'm going to ask it to break it out for me because obviously my query is a little flawed and I need to go across all these patients here and find out throughout the 300 or so patients what they are. And sure enough, it gives me back the number of patients and things like that. Okay, great. This is all natural language, but what if I want to check its work? I can come down here and flick these two queries and actually use this inside the database itself to do a query. So let me go ahead and query this database and make sure I get the same response. And if you kind of get where I'm going here, I can also say, all right, well, let me modify the age groups myself. Let me say lower than 19 instead of 18 or something like that. Well, there you have it. We've gone through the entire solution, starting with the overview, going through how and where to find the repo here on your screen. We went through the architecture and how it works, as well as the two components, the report and the data agent. I would also like to give a quick plug for my new YouTube channel here called Pandalytics. It's my nickname from rugby, and also my love of everything data and AI and analytics. So if you found this video helpful and you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe and comment below on what you'd like to see next in the world of Fabric, Azure, or data and AI in general. Take care and thanks for watching.